wish my brother Carson a happy birthday.
Come on, Car, keep going. Boom, good job, Car. Keep going, Car. Go.
Let's go! Let's go! Yeah.
Well, I think it signals that this is becoming mainstream, right? Digital assets are going to become mainstream. Now, that doesn't mean all of them. I think there's going to be some that, like in anything, you have to be sort of careful and really understand the space. But again, this underlying technology is so powerful that bringing it together, and I think a recognition that it is important for regulators, it's important for for traditional financial people to understand the space and to figure out how to converge these things together. And so I think that's really the message.
In Kraken's second annual Wyoming Blockchain Symposium. And I imagine pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for joining us today from beautiful Wyoming. This is Saul and Kraken's second annual Wyoming Blockchain Symposium, and I imagine that this must be such a contrast this year to 2024 when the federal government under President Joe Biden was skeptical of all things crypto, with policy and regulation really reflecting that level of caution. What does the Trump administration's embrace of crypto mean, Franklin Templeton and your broader financial services industry's efforts to offer more services in digital assets?
Yeah, no, I mean, for Franklin Templeton, I mean, one of the challenges, obviously, was not having regulatory clarity. And so, as a highly regulated firm who started doing things in blockchain in 2017, 2018, and had our money market fund, we're to this day still I believe the only 40 Act money market fund that runs on the public blockchain, is that we were limited in what we could do because you didn't have regulatory clarity. And if you were a regulated entity, you had to be really careful about how far you moved into the digital asset space. And I think what President Trump has done with kind of his support is to recognize, look, this technology is going to be hugely powerful and beneficial to the financial services industry because it'll drive down costs. It has more transparency. In many ways, it's arguably more secure. And so what's going to happen is you're going to start to see much more of a convergence of traditional finance with the digital asset space. And I think that's a really good thing. Well, so, I mean, one of the things that we see as a big trend in asset management is obviously this movement of alternatives into the wealth channel, right? And so, why is that a difficult thing? Because alternative assets tend to be very illiquid, and often people who don't have a huge amount of savings may have an emergency and dip into it, so they need a certain amount of liquidity. Well, we think tokenization is going to actually help that situation. So why is that? Well, one, a transaction that's been tokenized, so it does three things. It has, the source of truth, right? So whoever owns a token has all the rights to it. It has a smart contract, so you can execute the smart contract. That reduces the cost. There's not a bunch of people having to calculate to make sure that the terms of the contract are enforced. And then finally, it has a payment mechanism. So if that can drive down, and we saw it because the SEC had us run parallel processing between our old transfer agency shareholder record keeping system and the blockchain system, and even we were astonished at how much more cost effective it was to run these transactions on the blockchain system. And so if you think about the ability as we start to tokenize and create market makers and liquidity around these assets, you're going to actually democratize access to things that have only historically been available to really large institutions.
Well, remember, they're not allowed, because if you look at the last legislation, there's no yield on the stable coins, Andrew. So if you're converting dollars into a stable coin, there's going to be a spread there for those guys naturally. I don't think the competition is going to impact that unless we switch up that yield mechanism.
Welcome to the Cryptoteacher.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And I come back with that video just to make you think. And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. Also, go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And again, special shout outs for those who gave shout outs to Carson for his birthday. And then also, thanks a lot for all the love when it comes to the Cash App. Carson definitely appreciated and definitely had fun today. But King, of course, had football practice, cut a little short. But Carson definitely had fun today. Now we had the Wyoming Cracking Conference. And remember, guys, when we look at Wyoming, remember, it was only a few states that didn't go on lockdown. And we know those who didn't go on lockdown have definitely been moving fast forward when it comes to this fourth industrial revolution. And Wyoming is leading the way with his own stablecoin. Now we have Jennifer Johnson of Franklin Templeton. And Franklin Templeton, of course, has been one of the early ones pushing blockchain and these digital assets. But she's letting us know the power of blockchain and these digital assets and how they're going to change payment system forever. And what did she say? They ran both systems side by side. So therefore, of course, right now we have a parallel system going on. We have the old legacy system, and then we have blockchain going side by side, and then we also have the machines behind the curtain. But anytime you're running both of those side by side, you get to see how much faster and the money that's going to be saved. Because remember, guys, trust is thrown out the window. They'll know things for a fact with blockchain, and then also it's recorded. And remember, the Cryptoteacher tells you. And then we also have Anthony Scaramucci at the Wyoming conference. And he's asked about stable coins, but of course, guys, I've already been over this. These stable coins don't get yield. And anytime you're not getting yield on your money, what's going to happen? That money is going to take flight to where it can get yield. We know how big money works. And because we're in this space, we see other countries giving yield for these stable coins. And on top of it, don't forget, in the Genius Bill, for a whole 3 years, stable coins like Tether don't have to abide by the rules. And we know that is there for a reason. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. Remember, guys, it's all an inside job. And then speaking of the big money, we have Vanguard. Guys, I want you to make sure you're listening up closely. Vanguard coming into the actively managed U.S. stock ETFs. Yes, guys, you heard that correct, and we know why. Tokenization. What did Larry Fink say? These ETFs are the gateway to the new digital economy, and we're seeing the puzzle come all together. But unfortunately, the sheep are asleep. They pay attention to things that don't matter. This is unbelievable. And then we have Scott Besson speaking about the Brics again. And don't forget, guys, all this is biblical because you're watching the fall of America to Babylon right in front of your eyes and that world reserve currency. And you're witnessing the rise of the Brics nations led by China with that digital yuan backed by that digital SDR. And remember, the Cryptoteacher tells you, because he knows, when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
You know, we've had conversations probably when Bitcoin was at $15,000. Right now, in your mind, what's the window? What's the base case, and how high can it go from here?
I mean, listen, there's been pain and euphoria in the Bitcoin markets over the last 5 years. I think what's happening now is lots of consolidation and institutional adoption. So if you went to a conference like this 3 years ago, it was mostly retail investors and CEOs working in the layer one blockchain space. Today, it's lots more institutional investors. So that's finally starting to happen. If you look at the numbers on something like the BlackRock ETF, the IBIT ETF, you can see now, Andrew, there's lots of institutions coming in. So what's interesting is that some of the whales have been selling. So I know I've seen your interviews with Michael Novogratz and the 80,000 Bitcoins that sold last month. And so there's a consolidation story happening. There's a change of ownership story happening. But I think we're going higher just because you just look at the math. There's just way more demand than issued supply of Bitcoin or, existing overall supply in the marketplace. So we still maintain our price target between 180 and 200,000 by year end. And I think that's a cautious price target, by the way. I think there are people that are way above us, those levels. But I just think it's a function of buying and only 450 Bitcoins being made by the network per day. Well, listen, I mean, they're all linked to Bitcoin, IBIT being the purest link to Bitcoin. I think what Michael has done is absolutely extraordinary, as evidenced by all of the copycats that are out there. And again, not just copycats for Bitcoin, but for Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, and others. And so, it's different strokes for different folks. Michael, you're probably getting a little bit more of a kick to your Bitcoin exposure. IBIT, I think it's a pure play, and I would just point out that places like J.P. Morgan will actually lend on IBIT, and so it's a very secure asset that people trust. I own a lot of Bitcoin and hold it in storage, Andrew, for myself and for Skybridge. And so there's different ways to approach it. I think the institutions will likely go into the ETFs. And of course, there's a lot of institutions that quote unquote can't own Bitcoin, that they end up owning Michael's stock or synthetics like that. Well, I mean, and also the state of Wyoming is announcing this morning their own stable coin. So you can add that to the mix as well. Congratulations to the state. I just think that that's generally good. I share Secretary Besson's view of this, that's generally good for the U.S. dollar. It means, more treasuries, more short-term treasuries, demand for those securities. But I also think it's going to bring a wave of technological innovation. We, at our last conference in Bermuda, we did a drop of stable coins into people's phones where they could spend, I guess it was $100 at the different tourist shops on Front Street in Bermuda, and it worked beautifully. And I think you're going to get to the point where we're transacting using stable coins. It may bypass some of the credit card fees and some of the other ancillary third-party confirmation fees that we've charged historically in the marketplace. So I generally think it's very good. I think those companies will consolidate. And I think one of the discussions here at the Wyoming Blockchain Symposium is going to be about a central bank digital currency. And I stand with President Trump on that. I don't think we need that. I think it could be, from a libertarian perspective, too intrusive from a privacy matter. And I think the private companies are doing a great job in this area. And so I'd like to just stay in the private company realm as it relates to dollar-based stablecoins.
Filing show investment giant Vanguard is planning to debut its first actively managed U.S. stock ETFs this year. Wow.
That is weird.
That is
such
weird.
a turn
After
from what
being
John
so
Bogle came up with and what he
so
designed
sanctimonious about never trying to beat the market. Now they are.
Because you can't do it, and it's not worth the fees, and people get ripped off for it.
It's different this time. They got the perfect person to run it. Maybe. Vanguard plans to roll out ETF versions of 3 of its existing mutual funds. The company says the strategies will focus on growth stocks, value stocks, and dividend growth.
But this is a change in the law. So part of what's happened here is you couldn't do this before.
With an ETF.
Yes, all of this lived within the wrapper of a mutual fund. You weren't allowed to be an ETF. Now they've effectively allowed the creation of these ETFs. The other piece of this is they all carry higher fees.
Right.
Why do you want to be in the actively managed business? Because of the higher fee structure. Because you can claim
that's what
that
we're doing something that's unique and different. It's the opposite of what Jack Bogle preached for forever, and what he did at Vanguard, and the reason it came about. It is.
Pre-22, pre-invasion, 13% of China's oil was already coming from Russia. Now it's 16. So China has a diversified input of their oil. If you go back and look now, I believe India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42. So India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits. Some of the richest families in India. So this is a completely different thing. Like this Indian, what I would call the Indian arbitrage, buying cheap Russian oil, reselling it as product, has just sprung up during the war, which is unacceptable.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're going to get more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team Save the Village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Team Save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Team goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.